Hey, welcome back to the Conscious Environment Podcast, and thank you for tuning into the Say Whaaat History Takeover. That's where we talk about some people that you know, talk about some people that you don't know, talk about some events so crazy to make you say, what? And this is all about Black history. That's why we're doing it in February, but I think I'm going to go actually one more week into March because there are not enough weeks in February. Go figure. So the last couple of weeks, we've talked about a few different topics, but now let's get down to what a lot of people end up wanting us to talk about, but early life, because I think there's a lot of things that happened earlier on in our history, you know, as far as like the 1619 Project had come out and talked about what early enslavement looked like in the United States or the colonies at that point. And a lot of people don't know that we've been fighting back this entire time. So let's go into a couple of stories like that. For this first story, let's talk about 1619 and the Angolans that started it all. On August 20th, 1619, 20 and odd Angolans, kidnapped by the Portuguese, arrived in the British colony of Virginia and are then bought by the English colonists. But how did they get there? The San Juan Bautista was holding the captives and set sail from Angola to Veracruz in the colony of New Spain. As it approached its destination, it was attacked by two privateer ships. Pirates, the White Lion and the Treasurer. The two ships kidnapped 60 of the Batista's enslaved people. The White Lion landed in Jamestown looking for rest, food, and provisions. They sold 30 Angolans to the English settlement a full year before the Mayflower. This would make 2 centuries of North American enslavement. 2 of the enslaved, Isabella and Anthony, had a child in 1624, William Tucker, making that person the first recorded Black child born in the English America. From this group, we would also get the story of John Punch, one of the first recorded people to be sentenced to a lifetime of enslavement based only on his race. The 1860 census found that there were 3,953,760 enslaved people in the United States, making up roughly 13% of the total population. And that all came about from 20 stolen Angolans. Now for the story of John Punch. John Punch was an indentured servant captured in Angola by the Portuguese and stolen by the English privateers of the White Lion and then sold to Virginian settlers in 1619. In 1640, Punch ran away to Maryland accompanied by 2 other European indentured servants. All 3 were caught and returned to Virginia. On July 9th, the Virginia Governor's Council, which served as the colony's highest court, sentenced both Europeans to have their terms of indenture extended by another 4 years each. However, they sentenced Punch to serve his said master and his assigns for the time of his natural life here or elsewhere. This shouldn't be a surprise, as there was a catalyzation of Virginia's common law labor laws as early as 1622, 3 years after they bought their first Black enslaved peoples. The National Park Service notes that while it was customary practice to hold some Negroes in form of life service, Punch was the first documented enslaved person for life. Let's talk about Gabriel Prosser. Gabriel Prosser was born into slavery around 1775 in Henrico County, Virginia. Prosser planned to take hundreds of enslaved the night of August 30th, 1800, to Richmond to steal 4,000 unguarded muskets, arrest the governor, and wait for reinforcements to negotiate the end of slavery and the establishment of equal rights. Allies of all races would be spared, but assimilationist Blacks would also be killed. 2 enslaved who wanted to protect their masters, aka snitches, told Virginia authorities. And there was a militia waiting for them. About 35 leaders were captured and executed, but Prosser escaped, but was betrayed again by fellow enslaved who claimed the reward for his capture on September 25th. He was found guilty on October 6th and executed the next day. Something important to think about is how he was betrayed by other Blacks who didn't want to disrupt the status quo either. Unfortunately, it feels like these people still exist today. All right, let's move the dial a little bit forward up to 1815 to talk about Henry Box Brown. Henry Box Brown was born a slave in Virginia in 1815. After his wife and child were sold from one plantation to another in North Carolina, he became determined to escape to the north. he and two friends came up with a plan. Brown decided to ship himself in a box to the Philadelphia anti-slavery headquarters. In March of 1849, he shipped out from Virginia. Brown traveled by wagon, railroads, steamboats, ferries, and a delivery service, and he made it all the way to the Philadelphia Anti-Slavery Society. The box was only 3 feet long and 2 feet wide. Brown spent a total of 27 hours in the box labeled dry goods. Once he gained his freedom, Henry Box Brown joined the anti-slavery movement. Henry Box Brown was a symbol of the Underground Railroad freedom movement and a testament to the ingenuity of blackness. Let's talk about the infamous Dred Scott case. Dred Scott was born enslaved. Scott would find himself moved around the country with various owners in free and enslaved states for years. By the time he took legal action for his freedom, he was married and had 2 kids. He sued Irene Emerson in April of 1846 based off of 2 Missouri statutes. One statute allowed for any person of any color to sue for wrongful enslavement. The other stated that any person taken to a free territory automatically became free and could not be re-enslaved. He lost. His appeal went all the way to the Supreme Court, leading to the landmark Dred Scott v. Stanford case. Historians believe that the decision by the Supreme Court Justice Robert Taney would lead directly to the Civil War. Speaking of black people in the decision, he said, "They are not included and were not intended to be included under the word citizens in the Constitution. They had no rights which the white man was bound to respect." Dred Scott and his family would eventually be freed by their enslaver in 1857. Let's talk about a hero of the Civil War, Robert Smalls. Robert Smalls was an enslaved black man who escaped to freedom in a Confederate supply ship. In March 1861, Smalls was hired as a deckhand on the Confederate supply ship, the Planter. Over the course of several months, Smalls learned all that he could about navigating. May 13, 1862, while the white officers and crew slept ashore in Charleston, Smalls and a crew of 8 men, 5 women, and 3 children quickly slipped the Planter out of the Charleston harbor. Smalls successfully navigated the ship through 5 checkpoints. If caught, the crew was prepared to blow up the vessel. The courageous escape of Smalls was one of the factors encouraging President Lincoln to authorize free blacks to serve in the Union military. Smalls was elected to both South Carolina House of Representatives and the state Senate and served between 1874 and 1879. The success and aptitude of Robert Smalls can trace directly to President Lincoln's decision on the Emancipation Proclamation. In order to utilize free blacks, his ingenuity and tenacity. Let's talk about some World War II heroes, the Tuskegee Airmen. The Tuskegee Airmen were the first black military aviators in the United States Armed Forces. They fought during World War II. Black Americans back home were still subject to Jim Crow laws and thought serving their country would boost them out of it. They found the American military was just as racially segregated and just as racist at home as they were abroad. The Tuskegee Airmen were subjected to discrimination both within and outside of the Army. All black military pilots who trained in the U.S. had to train at 5 different airfields, one of them being the famed Tuskegee Army Airfields. From 1941 to 1946, hundreds of blacks successfully trained as pilots at the Tuskegee Institute, serving with distinction throughout the war. They flew over 1,578 combat missions and earned 3 Distinguished Unit citations, at least 1 Silver Star, and 96 Distinguished Flying Crosses. On March 29, 2007, the Tuskegee Airmen were collectively awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. Thanks so much for tuning into the Conscious Environment Podcast. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed recording it for you. Again, this is saying Whaaat History, and this is going to be just for February. I might do these maybe once a month after this. I've been having a lot of fun recording these. If you want to support the show, there are Venmo links and Cashapp links down below. If you can't support the show monetarily, please please just leave a review, tell a friend. I'm so sorry about my voice. It's a little squeaky. I'm just getting over having COVID again. So if my voice sounds a little raspy, a little squeaky, that's why. And if you do have a little bit of extra and you want something for your trouble, not just to give me some cash, but if you want something on the other side of it, we do have a bonfire account, and there are 2 designs that are up there right now. Kind of weekly, I'm sort of coming up with designs and putting them up there. Right now we have the Black Philosopher's shirt. You can go and check that out. It's kind of that name style shirt. And also we definitely have the I Am Black History shirt. So if you want to go check that out, go to the bonfire link that's going to be linked down below. But other than that, remember, I love you, and go drink water right now. Stay hydrated. Go right now. Okay, I'll see you next week.